Hibernian have lowered their asking price for a midfield target Celtic have already bid for once this summer, and that changes everything about this deal. We have also got a striking question being asked about who is really making the big decisions at Celtic Park, a Rangers manager reliving the agony of losing the title race, an agent revealing fresh details on a possible return for a former loanee, and Ange Postecoglou's verdict on a World Cup star Celtic once turned down. Let's get into it. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Celtic's interest in Miguel Chaiwa remains one to watch, with the 22-year-old having been on the Hoops radar for some time, and reports tonight confirming Celtic last made an approach for the player towards the end of May. That offer did not lead to a deal, but Chaiwa's situation has now moved forward. Recent reports suggested Hibs could look for around £7 million before considering a sale, but tonight's update suggests a fee in the region of £4 to £5 million would actually be enough to seal a deal. That is still serious money for a player Celtic would be signing from within the Premiership, but it is a very different conversation from the £7 million figure that had been reported elsewhere. Chaiwa is under contract at Easter Road until 2028, so Hibs remain in a strong position and do not need to sell cheaply, especially with interest in the Zambia international growing after an impressive season, but Celtic have already shown they like the player. He fits the profile the club often look for. Young, athletic, capable of developing further, but already tested in Scottish football. Midfield could become one of the key areas of Martin O'Neill's rebuild, with Arne Engels attracting interest elsewhere, and Reo Hatate's future also under discussion. Chaiwa would offer something different. His power, mobility, and defensive bite would give Celtic another option in the middle of the pitch. The situation now depends on whether Celtic return with a fresh offer at this lower number. The player is open to the move. The clubs simply need to find common ground, and tonight's update suggests that gap may finally be closing. Now, for the main story, as a fresh article tonight has raised one of the biggest frustrations among Celtic supporters this summer, and it goes well beyond the lack of signings or the ongoing delays surrounding Martin O'Neill's coaching staff. It is the growing confusion over who is actually making the key decisions at the club. Martin O'Neill has been appointed manager, Michael Nicholson remains chief executive, Brian Wilson is interim chairman, Chris McKay is chief financial officer. Yet, as negotiations surrounding Sean Maloney and Mark Fotheringham continue to drag on, another familiar name keeps appearing at the centre of events: Dermot Desmond. The club's principal shareholder has always held significant influence behind the scenes at Celtic, but the latest reports suggest he remains heavily involved in major football decisions. We already know Desmond personally met with Maloney in an effort to break the deadlock over a new agreement. However, despite those talks, there is still no official resolution. Journalist Graham Spears has offered further insight into who he believes is driving the negotiations. Writing on Patreon, Spears stated, "Dermot Desmond, the significant shareholder who historically has done so much for Celtic, is the man behind it all. Desmond has proved hard to budge on what he believes to be the unfair financial demands being made by Maloney and Fotheringham. If accurate, those comments suggest one of the most important staffing decisions of the summer is ultimately being driven by a shareholder rather than the club's executive leadership structure. Modern football clubs typically operate with clearly defined executive chains of command, with owners providing oversight rather than running day-to-day football operations. At Celtic, supporters often get the impression that major decisions continue to flow through one individual. Pre-season starts this week, and O'Neill's coaching team remains incomplete. No new signings have arrived or even seem close. Whether the structure is fit for the demands of modern football is a question that refuses to go away. In other news, newly appointed Rangers boss Derek McInnes has admitted that leaving Celtic Park on the final day of last season was one of the lowest moments of his managerial career. McInnes was speaking on Wednesday after being unveiled at Ibrox, where he reflected on the dramatic conclusion to the Premiership title race. McInnes and Hearts had spent much of the season dreaming of an historic league triumph. Heading into the final day, they remained within touching distance of the title and believed they could complete the job. But Celtic had other ideas. A dramatic afternoon at Celtic Park saw Martin O'Neill's side come from behind to beat Hearts 3-1 and snatch the championship. Arne Engel's equaliser shifted the momentum before Dyson Maida produced the goal that put Celtic on course for glory. Then, with Hearts throwing bodies forward in search of a lifeline, Callum Osmond raced through to score the goal that sealed both the victory and the title. Reflecting on that day during his Rangers unveiling, McInnes said to Rangers TV, "It was a sobering feeling leaving Celtic Park, probably the lowest point of my career. I had a firm belief that we were going to win the league for a long time. All these things wrestle with you." Those of the Hearts' persuasion tried to come up with excuses for weeks and weeks on end. Ultimately, though, title races are decided over 38 games. Hearts put together an outstanding campaign and pushed Celtic all the way, but a poor run of form during the closing weeks left the door open. Celtic took advantage of that and went on to lift the title. Unlucky for Hearts, but credit where it's due for Celtic finding a way over the line. In other news, Marcelo Saraki's agent has revealed fresh details of talks with Celtic over a possible return to Glasgow, with a cut price fee now in the picture, but a major sticking point still standing in the way. Saraki spent last season on loan at Celtic from Boca Juniors and has been linked again with a move back to the Scottish champions. Speaking to Celts Are Here, agent Marcelo Tejera confirmed he has spoken with Celtic chief executive Michael Nicholson in recent days and said Celtic have all the numbers required to do a deal. However, there has been frustration over the pace of communication. At times, responses are understood to have taken as long as 2 weeks, despite Celtic now having the financial details required to make a decision. The real issue is structure. Celtic are understood to have asked about a 1-year loan, but Saraki wants a permanent move and is looking for a 3-year contract. Saraki's current contract with Boca Juniors runs until December 2027, and Boca are open to moving the player on this summer, with a fee in the region of £2 million understood to be enough to get a deal done. The wages are not believed to be an issue, with salary figures already discussed and viewed as reasonable. That leaves the structure and fee as the only real questions. With £2 million reportedly enough to do a permanent deal, there is some confusion over why Celtic would prefer another loan, especially given the club have paid significantly higher fees for players in recent windows. There is also interest from elsewhere in Europe, with another club understood to have an offer on the table. Saraki made 27 appearances for Celtic last season and played his part in the double-winning campaign. If Celtic are serious about bringing him back, a permanent transfer on sensible terms looks like the only route that keeps the door open. That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Hail, hail.